It was a bright, sunny afternoon in a tiny, dusty town. The kind of place where nothing big ever happens, and everyone knows everyone. Linda Carter walked slowly down the sidewalk, her white cane tapping the ground with little clicks. Tap, tap, tap. She couldn't see a thing, not the blue sky, not the little shops, not even the cracks in the pavement. But she didn't need to. By her side was Max, her guide dog. Max was big and strong, with soft brown fur and sharp eyes that watched everything. He walked right next to Linda, steady as a rock, making sure she didn't trip or bump into anything. To the people in town, Linda was just a quiet blind lady. Nothing special, nothing exciting. Most folks didn't even look at her twice. They'd see her white cane and Max's harness and just keep going about their day. Oh, that's just Linda, they'd think. She's harmless. And Linda was okay with that. She didn't talk much, didn't make a fuss. She liked being left alone. But here's the thing nobody knew, Linda and Max had a secret. A big, huge, amazing secret. Something so wild it could turn this sleepy little town upside down and make everyone's jaw drop. Picture it, the sun shining, a soft breeze blowing dust down the empty street. Linda's cane tapped along, and Max's paws padded quietly beside her. Everything seemed normal. Boring, even. But that's how the best stories start, right? With something that looks ordinary until it's not. Linda wasn't just some blind lady, and Max wasn't just some regular dog. Oh no. They were a team, and they were hiding something so cool, so surprising, that nobody in town would ever guess it. Not in a million years. Let's stop for a second. I've got a question for you. What would you do if you saw someone picking on a person who couldn't fight back? Like, if you were walking down the street and you saw a big, mean kid pushing around someone smaller, someone who couldn't push back, what would you do? Would you say something? Would you help? Or would you just keep walking? Think about that while we get into the story, because it's about to get crazy. Ready? Okay, let's go. Linda wasn't always blind. A long time ago, she could see just fine. She had a normal life, with a job and friends and all that stuff. But then something happened, an accident, and her world went dark. It was tough at first. Really tough. She couldn't do things the way she used to. But Linda was strong. She didn't give up. She learned how to get around with her cane, how to listen to the sounds of the world instead of seeing it. And then she got Max. Max changed everything. He wasn't just a dog to her, he was her best friend, her helper, her eyes. With Max by her side, Linda could go anywhere. She didn't feel scared or weak. She felt safe. Max was special from the start. He wasn't like the dogs you see chasing balls at the park or barking at squirrels. No way. Max was calm and smart. Really smart. When Linda held his harness, he'd guide her around corners, stop at curbs, even nudge her away from puddles. People in town thought he was just a good guide dog. Nice pup, they'd say, and keep walking. But they didn't know the half of it. Max had a past, a big, secret past that made him way more than just a nice pup. And Linda? She knew all about it. She kept that secret close, like a treasure she didn't want anyone to find. The town itself was pretty quiet. There wasn't much to do. A little store sold candy and soda. A gas station sat on the corner with a rusty old sign. Kids rode bikes down the street sometimes, but that was about it. Nothing exciting ever happened. People liked it that way, calm and simple. But Linda and Max? They were like a storm waiting to happen. A big, wild storm that nobody saw coming. And on this sunny afternoon, that storm was about to start brewing. See, Linda didn't mind being ignored. She didn't care if people walked past her without saying hi. She didn't need their attention. She had Max, and that was enough. But sometimes, being ignored made her a target. Some mean people thought she was weak because she couldn't see. They thought she couldn't do anything about it if they messed with her. Boy, were they wrong. Linda wasn't weak. Not even a little bit. And Max? He was tougher than anyone could imagine. Together, they were unstoppable. But nobody knew that yet. The day started like any other. Linda woke up, ate breakfast, and put on her shoes. Max wagged his tail, ready to go. They stepped outside, and the sun felt warm on Linda's face. She smiled a little. She liked days like this, peaceful and easy. She grabbed Max's harness, and off they went, down the sidewalk. Tap, tap, tap went her cane. Pad, pad, pad went Max's paws. They were headed to the store to get some bread and milk. Nothing big, just a normal trip. But normal doesn't last forever, does it? Nope. Something was about to happen. Something wild. As they walked, Linda heard the usual sounds, birds chirping, a car driving by, the wind rustling leaves. Max stayed close, his fur brushing her leg. She trusted him completely. He'd never let her down. Not once. And today, that trust was going to be more important than ever. Because trouble was coming. Big trouble. The kind of trouble that rolls into town on loud motorcycles and thinks it owns the place. Trouble that didn't know who it was messing with. So there they were, Linda and Max, walking along, minding their own business. A blind lady and her dog, out for a simple errand. Nobody paid them much attention. Nobody thought they were anything special. But that was about to change. The secret they carried, the one nobody in this dusty little town knew about, was about to come out. And when it did, oh man, it was going to be awesome. Before we keep going, let's check in with you again. What do you think about bullies? Do you think it's fair when someone picks on a person who seems helpless? Or do you think those bullies deserve a surprise like the one Linda and Max are about to give? This story's just getting started, and trust me, you're not gonna want to miss what happens next. So stick around, and let's see how this quiet afternoon turns into something nobody in town will ever forget. It was a sunny day, and Linda Carter was walking down the sidewalk with her guide dog, Max. Everything seemed fine until trouble rolled into town. 5 big, noisy motorcycles roared down the street. The sound was so loud it made the windows shake. These weren't just any bikes, they belonged to 5 tough-looking bikers. They wore black leather jackets that looked cool but kind of scary, too. Their engines growled like angry lions as they sped into the little dusty town. The bikers stopped right in the middle of the sidewalk, parking their shiny bikes in a line. It wasn't a big deal to them, but it was right where Linda needed to walk. She couldn't see the bikes because she was blind, but she heard them. Oh boy, did she hear them. The noise was loud and rough, and it filled the air. Linda stopped, her white cane tapping the ground, and Max stood still by her side. His big brown ears perked up, listening to every sound. The leader of the bikers was a guy named Spike. He had a scruffy beard that looked like he hadn't shaved in weeks, and his grin was mean, like the kind of smile a kid makes when they're about to take your candy. Spike saw Linda standing there with her cane and Max, and he decided to be a bully. He leaned forward on his bike and yelled, "Hey, lady. Move it or lose it." His voice was loud and rude, cutting through the quiet day like a big, sharp knife. His buddies, all 4 of them, thought that was super funny. They started laughing, big belly laughs that echoed down the street. To make it worse, they revved their engines. Vroom. Vroom. The noise got even louder, and it was meant to scare Linda. They wanted her to jump or run away. But guess what? Linda didn't move. Not even a little bit. She stood there, calm as could be, like the noise was just a breeze blowing by. Her hand tightened on Max's harness, though. She held it a little harder, like she was telling him, "Stay ready, buddy." Spike didn't like that Linda didn't budge. He wanted her to be scared. So he jumped off his bike with a big thump and strutted over to her. He was tall, way taller than Linda, and he stood right in front of her, looking down with that mean grin still on his face. "What's the matter?" he said, his voice all nasty and mocking. "Too slow to get out of our way." He acted like he owned the sidewalk, like Linda didn't belong there at all. The other bikers kept laughing. They thought Spike was the funniest guy ever. One of them grabbed an empty soda can from his pocket and tossed it toward Linda. It didn't hit her, but it landed close clang, right near her feet. Another guy threw one, too, and it rolled across the ground with a little rattle. They were trying to mess with her, to make her feel small and helpless. "Look at her," one of them shouted. "She can't even dodge a can." More laughs. They were having a great time being mean. But Linda? She didn't say a word. She didn't yell back or cry or anything. She just stood there, her face blank, like she didn't even hear them. Her cane rested in one hand, and her other hand stayed on Max's harness. She was super calm, almost too calm. It was like she knew something they didn't. And Max? Oh, Max was watching. His big, smart eyes followed every move the bikers made. His ears twitched a little, just a tiny bit, like he was listening extra hard. Those bikers thought Max was just a regular dog. Ha! They had no idea what they were getting into. Spike took a step closer. He was so close now that Linda could probably feel the heat from his jacket. "Come on, old lady," he said, his voice low and growly. "Move your little dog and get lost." He smirked, thinking he was so tough. His buddies cheered him on. "Yeah, Spike. Tell her," one of them yelled. They kept revving their engines vroom, vroom, to make it loud and scary. The noise bounced off the buildings, filling the whole street. Anyone else might have run away or begged them to stop. But not Linda. Max didn't growl or bark. He didn't even move much. He just stood there, right next to Linda, his body strong and steady. But if you looked really close, you'd see his ears twitch again. And his eyes. They were locked on Spike, watching him like a hawk watches a mouse. Max wasn't scared. Not one bit. He was waiting. Linda was waiting, too. They were like a team, ready for something big, but they didn't show it yet. The bikers didn't notice any of that. They were too busy laughing and acting tough. To them, Linda was just a blind lady with a boring dog. Easy to pick on. Easy to push around. "What's she gonna do?" one of them said, chuckling. "She can't even see us." They thought they were in charge. They thought they could do whatever they wanted. Spike crossed his arms and stared down at Linda, waiting for her to back off. He was sure she'd give up. After all, what could she do? She was blind, and he was big and mean. But here's the thing, Linda wasn't helpless. Not even close. And Max? He wasn't just some pet. Those bikers were walking right into a trap, and they didn't even know it. The air felt heavy, like something was about to happen. The sun was still shining, the street was still dusty, but everything was different now. Trouble was here, and it was picking a fight with the wrong team. Spike leaned in a little more. "Last chance, lady," he said, his voice sharp. "Move, or we'll move you." His buddies hooped and hollered, egging him on. They tossed another soda can, and it skittered across the sidewalk. Clink, clink, clink. They were so sure they'd win. So sure Linda would run off scared. But she didn't. She stood her ground, her hand tight on Max's harness, her face still calm. Max's ears twitched one more time. The bikers had no clue what was coming. They thought they were the tough ones. Oh boy, were they wrong. This was just the start. The tension was building, like a rubber band stretched tight, ready to snap. Linda and Max weren't backing down, and the bikers weren't giving up. Something big was about to go down on this quiet little street. What do you think happens next? Stick around, because this story's about to get wild. Days went by after that first run-in with the bikers, and things didn't get better. Nope, they got worse. Those 5 guys in their leather jackets didn't leave town. They stuck around, riding their loud motorcycles up and down the streets like they owned everything. And every time Linda Carter stepped outside with her guide dog, Max, they were there. It was like they were waiting for her, looking for a chance to be mean again. Linda walked to the store almost every day. She needed stuff like bread, milk, or maybe a candy bar for a treat. It was just a short trip from her little house to the shop on the corner. She'd tap her white cane on the sidewalk, tap, 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 and Max would walk right beside her, guiding her with his steady steps. Most days, it was peaceful. Birds chirped, the wind blew softly, and the sun felt nice. But then the bikers would show up, and everything changed. They'd zoom around her on their bikes, making big circles like sharks swimming around a little fish. Their engines roared vroom, vroom, so loud it hurt your ears. And they didn't just ride. Oh no. They yelled stuff, too. Dumb, mean stuff. One of them would shout, "Hey, Grandma. Where's your babysitter?" Another would laugh and say, "Nice mutt. Bet he can't even fetch a stick." They thought they were so funny, giggling like silly kids on the playground. But it wasn't funny to Linda. It was rude. Linda didn't yell back, though. She didn't cry or stomp her feet or tell them to go away. She just kept walking. Her face stayed blank, like she didn't even hear them. No smile, no frown, nothing. She held her cane in one hand and Max's harness in the other, moving slow and steady. It was like the bikers weren't even there. But they were there, and they wouldn't stop. Day after day, they kept picking on her, trying to make her mad or scared. Max didn't bark at them either. He didn't growl or wag his tail or anything. He just stayed glued to Linda's side, his big paws hitting the ground with every step she took. But if you watched him really close, you'd see something. His sharp eyes never stopped moving. They followed the bikers, tracking every circle they made, every loud noise they shouted. Max wasn't just sitting there. He was watching. Waiting. Like a superhero getting ready for the big fight. The leader, Spike, was the worst. He loved being mean more than the others. One day, he decided to take it up a notch. Linda and Max were walking to the store, same as always. The sun was high, and the street was quiet until the bikers rolled in. Spike was at the front, his scruffy beard blowing in the wind, his mean grin shining like he'd just won a prize. He saw Linda and Max and slowed his bike down, pulling up right next to them. "Hey, look at this," Spike called to his buddies. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a little pebble. Just a tiny rock, smaller than a grape. He held it up, showing it off like it was something cool. Then, with a big laugh, he tossed it right at Max. The pebble flew through the air and bounced off the pavement plank, just a few inches from Max's paws. It didn't hit him, but it was close. Real close. Spike cackled like it was the funniest thing ever. "Dumb dog doesn't even bark," he shouted, slapping his knee. His buddies laughed, too, revving their engines to make more noise. "What a loser," one of them yelled. "Can't even dodge a rock." They kept going, circling Linda and Max, tossing out more insults. "Blind lady and her sleepy mutt," they hollered. "Go home already." They thought they were so tough, so smart. But here's the thing, Max wasn't dumb. Not even a little bit. If you looked real close, super close, you'd see something happen when that pebble hit the ground. Max's muscles got tight. Not all jumpy, but tense, like he was ready to move fast if he had to. His head tilted just a tiny bit, and his eyes locked onto Spike. He didn't bark or growl, though. He stayed quiet. Why? Because Linda told him to. Right after the pebble landed, Linda leaned down a little. She whispered something to Max, so soft nobody else could hear it. Not Spike, not the bikers, not even the birds in the trees. It was a secret between her and Max. Whatever she said, it worked. Max didn't move. He didn't chase the pebble or snap at Spike. He just stood there, still as a statue, but ready. Oh, he was so ready. The bikers didn't notice any of that. They were too busy laughing and acting big. To them, Max was just a boring dog, and Linda was just a weak old lady. They didn't see the way Max's eyes followed them. They didn't see how Linda's hand stayed steady on his harness, like she knew something they didn't. They thought they were winning. They thought they could keep picking on her forever. But something was brewing. Something big. Something that was gonna hit them hard when they least expected it. Days turned into more days, and the bikers didn't let up. Every time Linda left her house, they'd be there, circling and shouting. "Hey, Grandma, lost your way," they'd yell. Or, "That dog's too lazy to bite." It was the same dumb stuff over and over. Linda kept walking, her cane tapping, her face blank. Max kept watching, his ears twitching now and then. The bikers thought it was a game. They thought Linda and Max couldn't do anything about it. They were so wrong. What were Linda and Max waiting for? That's the big question. They weren't scared, oh no. They weren't weak either. They had a plan, or maybe a secret, and they were holding it tight, like a present they hadn't unwrapped yet. The bikers kept pushing, kept being mean, but Linda and Max didn't break. They stayed calm, stayed quiet, stayed ready. And every mean word, every tossed pebble, was bringing the bikers closer to a surprise they'd never see coming. The air felt different now. Thicker, heavier, like a storm was rolling in even though the sky was clear. The bikers didn't feel it, they were too loud, too full of themselves. But it was there. Something was building, step by step, day by day. Linda and Max knew it. They were waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, oh boy, it was gonna be wild. Stick around, because this story's about to get even crazier. It all happened on a quiet Thursday. The little town was calm, just like always. The sun was shining, birds were singing, and the dusty streets were empty except for Linda Carter and her guide dog, Max. They were walking near the park, a small spot with green grass and a few benches. Linda's white cane tapped the ground tap, 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 and Max stayed right by her side, his big paws moving slow and steady. It was a normal day. Or so everyone thought. Then the bikers showed up. Those 5 guys in their leather jackets roared in on their loud motorcycles. Vroom, vroom. The noise bounced off the trees and scared the birds away. They didn't just ride by, though. Nope. They stopped right in front of Linda, parking their bikes in a big line across the path. She couldn't get past them. Her cane tapped a bike tire tap and she stopped. Max stopped, too, his ears perking up. Spike, the leader with the scruffy beard and mean grin, jumped off his bike first. He cracked his knuckles, making loud pops with his fingers, like he was getting ready for a fight. His buddies stayed on their bikes, watching with big smiles. They'd been picking on Linda for days, and they weren't done yet. Spike walked right up to her, standing tall and tough. "Time to teach you a lesson, lady," he growled, his voice low and nasty. He reached out with his big hand, trying to grab her cane. He wanted to yank it away, to make her feel small and scared. But Linda wasn't scared. Not one bit. She stood there, her face calm, her hand tight on Max's harness. Spike's fingers were inches from her cane when her voice cut through the air. It wasn't loud or shaky, it was steady and strong, like a teacher telling you to sit down. "Max, now," she said. Just 2 little words, but they changed everything. In a flash, Max moved. 1 second, he was standing still, quiet as a mouse. The next, he was a blur of brown fur and muscle. He didn't just bark or jump around, no way. Max leaped straight at Spike, fast as lightning. Boom. With one big jump, he slammed into Spike's chest and knocked him flat on his back. The big, tough biker hit the ground hard thud, and stayed there, sprawled out like a turtle flipped over. Max didn't stop there. He planted his paws on Spike's chest and pinned him down. A low, rumbling growl came from deep in his throat, growling like a warning. His sharp teeth showed just a little, and his eyes stared right into Spike's face. Spike's mean grin was gone now. His eyes got wide, and he looked scared, really scared. He didn't move. He couldn't. Max was too strong, too fast. The other bikers froze. Their jaws dropped, and their mouths hung open like they'd just seen a ghost. One guy's soda can slipped from his hand and hit the ground clank, but he didn't even notice. They'd been laughing and yelling a minute ago, but now, total silence. No more revving engines, no more dumb insults. They just stared at Max, then at Linda, then back at Max. What was happening? This wasn't just a guide dog. This was something else. Linda stood tall, her cane in one hand, her other hand resting on Max's harness. She didn't shake or wobble. She looked strong, like a superhero ready to save the day. Her voice came again, clear and steady as steel. "You picked the wrong fight, boys," she said, looking right at the bikers even though she couldn't see them. "Max here spent years taking down guys tougher than you." That's when it hit them. Max wasn't just a regular dog. He was a Navy SEAL canine, a super tough dog trained for big, dangerous jobs. He'd been in fights before, real fights, with bad guys way scarier than a bunch of loud bikers. Max wasn't just Linda's helper. He was a hero, a warrior, and he'd been hiding it all this time. Those sharp eyes, those strong muscles, that quiet way he watched everything, it all made sense now. Spike squirmed under Max's paws, his leather jacket all dusty from the ground. "Get him off me," he yelped, his voice high and squeaky. He didn't sound tough anymore. He sounded like a kid who'd lost his toy. But Max didn't move. He stayed right there, growling low, keeping Spike stuck. The other bikers didn't help. They were too shocked. One of them whispered, "Did she say Navy SEAL?" Another nodded, his eyes big as dinner plates. Linda didn't smile or laugh. She just stood there, letting her words sink in. Max knows how to handle trouble, she said. And you boys? You're trouble. Her voice was calm but firm, like she was telling them a fact they couldn't argue with. The bikers had been so mean, so loud, so sure they could push her around. But now, they saw the truth. Linda wasn't weak. Max wasn't lazy. Together, they were unstoppable. The park was quiet now, except for Max's growl and Spike's little whines. The sun still shone, the grass still waved in the breeze, but everything felt different. The bikers had thought Linda was an easy target. They'd laughed at her cane, her blindness, her quiet dog. They'd tossed pebbles and yelled dumb things, thinking they were big and bad. But they were wrong. So wrong. Max kept Spike pinned, his paws heavy on the biker's chest. Spike's buddies didn't know what to do. They looked at each other, then at Linda, then at Max. We didn't mean it, one of them stammered. We were just joking. But it wasn't a joke anymore. It was real, and they were in big trouble. Linda tilted her head a little, like she was listening to the world around her. She couldn't see the bikers' scared faces, but she didn't need to. She knew Max had them handled. She'd known all along what Max could do. That's why she stayed so calm every time they messed with her. She wasn't afraid of them. She had Max, and Max was a secret weapon, a big, furry, growling secret weapon. This was at the big moment. The bikers had pushed too far, and now they were finding out who Linda and Max really were. Spike's hand was still stretched out toward the cane he'd tried to grab, but he wasn't grabbing anything now. He was stuck, helpless, under Max's paws. The other bikers didn't dare move. They thought they were the tough ones, but they were wrong. The real tough ones were the blind lady and her amazing dog. Spike was in big trouble now. He wiggled and squirmed under Max's strong paws, his tough guy face gone. "Get him off me," he yelped, his voice all high and shaky. He didn't sound like a mean biker anymore, he sounded like a scared little kid. Max didn't move, though. His big paw stayed right on Spike's chest, pinning him to the ground with that low growl growling still rumbling in his throat. Max wasn't going anywhere until Linda said so. The other bikers didn't know what to do. They jumped off their bikes and backed away fast, holding their hands up like they were saying, "Don't hurt us." Their eyes were wide, and their mouths moved quick. "We didn't know, lady," one of them blurted. "We're sorry." "Really sorry," another stammered. They weren't laughing or yelling mean things now. Nope. They were scared and trying to fix what they'd done. But Linda didn't yell back. She just stood there, calm and tall, and nodded once. "Next time," she said, her voice steady, "think twice before you mess with someone." That was it. Linda didn't need to say more. She'd made her point, and Max had made it even clearer. Spike was still on the ground, looking up at Max's sharp teeth and big eyes. Finally, Linda gave a little whistle tweet, and Max stepped off. He walked back to her side, calm as ever, like pinning a biker was no big deal. Spike scrambled up, brushing dirt off his jacket, his face red and sweaty. He didn't say a word. He just ran to his bike, jumped on, and started the engine. The other bikers didn't wait around either. They hopped on their motorcycles, revved them up vroom, vroom, and took off. The loud noise faded as they sped out of the park, down the street, and out of town. By the time the sun went down, they were gone for good. No more bikers, no more trouble. The little dusty town was quiet again. Word spread fast, like a wildfire in dry grass. Everyone heard what happened, how Linda and Max took down those mean bikers. People who used to walk past Linda without a second look now stopped to say hi. Some even tipped their hats when she passed by with Max. "Good job, Linda," they'd say, smiling big. "That dog's amazing." They didn't ignore her anymore. They saw her and Max in a whole new way. And Max? He was happy as could be. That night, Linda gave him extra treats, big, yummy ones he loved. He wagged his tail hard, chomping them down like nothing exciting had happened. To him, it was just another day being Linda's best buddy. But to the town, it was a big deal. They learned something important: don't judge a book or a dog by its cover. Linda looked quiet and blind, and Max looked like just a guide dog, but they were so much more. They were strong, brave, and unbeatable together. The town was peaceful again, and the lesson stuck. No one messed with Linda after that. She and Max kept walking to the store, tapping and patting along, and everyone knew, they were the real heroes of the day. So, that's the story of a blind woman named Linda and her hero dog, Max, teaching some mean bikers a big lesson. It's pretty awesome, right? Those tough guys thought they could pick on Linda because she couldn't see, but they didn't know Max was a super tough Navy SEAL dog. In the end, Linda and Max showed them who's really boss. It wasn't the loud bikers with their noisy bikes, it was the quiet lady and her furry best friend. This story shows something cool: the people or dogs you least expect can have the biggest surprises. Linda looked like just a regular lady, and Max looked like just a guide dog. But they were so much more. They had strength and bravery hiding inside them, waiting for the right moment to come out. It's like a present wrapped in plain paper. You don't know how amazing it is until you open it up. Think about that for a second. Never think someone's weak just because they're quiet or different. The ones who don't talk big or act tough. They might have the power to shake things up when you're not even looking. Linda didn't yell or fight back at first, she stayed calm. Max didn't bark or chase the bikers right away, he waited. But when the time was right, they showed everyone what they could do. That's real strength. So, what do you think? Did those bikers deserve what happened? They were mean and rude for days, picking on Linda just because they thought they could. Did they get what was coming to them? Tell me what you think down below. And here's something fun: what's the coolest thing your pet's ever done? Maybe your dog chased away a squirrel, or your cat climbed somewhere super high. I'd love to hear your stories. This tale of Linda and Max is all about surprises and standing up to bullies. It's a reminder to be kind and not judge people or dogs too quick. You never know who might be a hero in disguise. That's it for now, but I'll see you in the next story. Get ready for more fun adventures. Bye for now.